Welcome to the ParentNet podcast by Focus on the Family Singapore. In each episode, we'll be speaking with everyday parents and practitioners as they share with us gems from their parenthood journey. Keep tuning in to learn with us as we figure it out together.
Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast. My name is June and I'm your host for this episode. In today's episode, we'll explore how play isn't just fun. It's a powerful tool for building trust, connection, and emotional resilience between parents and children. Whether it's a game of catch, storytelling, or simply laughing over a joke together, play shapes relationships in ways that can possibly last a lifetime. So let's dive in and discover why play is just so important in the home. Joining us today is Mariko, mother of a lovely 4-year-old daughter, and Ruth Gan, a clinical psychologist and mom of one. Welcome to the ParentNet podcast, Mariko and Ruth. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourselves?
Hi, thank you for having me. It's great to be back here at Focus on the Fam to discuss the topic I'm actually excited about. To start off, I'm Mariko, an ex-early childhood educator who worked in the field for more than 5 years at both a government-funded school and also a privately operated preschool, before taking a break to get my master's and also starting my own family. I guess my break never really ended because I got to practice my skills while raising my own child, and boy, is that different from raising other people's children. I mean, with others, you can always say bye to them at the end of the day and have a good night rest. But with your own, the only breaks you really get is when they're asleep. Yeah, so I think that's all about me.
Hi, my name is Ruth. I've been married for 5 years, and my husband and I, we have a daughter who's turning 2 very soon. I'm a practicing clinical psychologist, but in this season, I'm actually working mostly as a stay-home mom. My daughter doesn't go to school at the moment, and in my clinical practice, I work with children and parents, adolescents and adults with various mental health conditions. I'm definitely really passionate about this topic because I think play is very crucial to the whole of life, and emotional development is so intertwined with curiosity and play.
Well said. Thank you, Ruth and Mariko. So both of you have a young child at home. What does play look like in your home? Could you share with us, some of your favorite moments?
Yeah, definitely. I have a favorite one. So my daughter actually really loves going to the supermarket, cooking and pretending to buy things. So my husband and I saw this little trolley one day at a stationery shop. You can fit the trolley in your hand. Yeah, so when we gave it to my daughter, she suddenly asked me to get her baby carrier. It's like a toy baby carrier. And she asked me to help her to wear the baby carrier. And then she put the trolley inside and then she started rocking it to sleep. Yeah, singing it to sleep, petting it to sleep. It was really the most ridiculous sight. Yeah, even when my friends came over, she would tell me, Mama, stand and pet trolley. Right. So I had to stand in front of my friends and pet this little trolley to sleep. So honestly, when you think about it, it's so ridiculous to us adults. Like, what is going on, right? And our natural reaction may be to tell her hey, the trolley is for pushing lah. Or the trolley is for food, not for petting. It's not baby. But I think taking a step back and I allowed myself to enter her world and pretend play together with her, I think it helped me to understand what's going on a bit better. So when I thought about it, I recalled at my mom's house, she actually had this huge trolley where it's, more her size. So I was like, oh right, no wonder she treated the little trolley like a baby when she first saw it. There was this huge trolley and in comparison, this baby trolley is much smaller. Really entering into her world, playing along with her, helped her to feel seen. And in turn, I think I saw that it fostered a sense of confidence because in the days to come, she was very confident in, how she treated this trolley. Overall, it empowered her to know that she can be brave enough to explore more.
That's so thought-provoking. And I would imagine for many parents, we would be very quick to tell the child, this is a trolley that you push around in the supermarket. It's not meant to be carried like a baby. We are very tempted to tell them what is the right thing to do. What is the right way to play. So I really like what you said about entering into her world and how that actually helped her to grow in that confidence.
So to me, play can be anything. From walking to the playground downstairs or doing grocery or shopping together and stuff. So in a way, every interaction that you have with the child can be considered a form of play. When I was reflecting back on this question, I was thinking about how my current favorite play moment is just a few days back where Kiona, my child. Like she was like bossing everyone around, you know, in the house. And because I have this like no screen rule, like with Kiona, so like it's almost impossible to keep it with parents and grandparents around because essentially they'll just want to watch TV all the time, right? Because there's nothing else to do at home. But Kiona will try to help to enforce it by actually hiding the remote and insisting that everyone plays with her. Whether it's like, you know, to tell her their order of like pretend food or like whether it's to watch her sing and perform on her little piano. But she would just tell them, no TV. Gong gong, no TV. But Taipor, no TV. You cannot watch TV if I cannot watch TV. That kind of thing. I think some people will call this, you know, bossy in that sense because it is the child like telling other people what they can do or not, right? But then and usually it's not common because adults are the ones that like are in the form of authority, right? But I think in this way, like I actually allowed it and encouraged her in some sense because it was her, you know, choosing how she wanted to creatively go about getting everybody else to be on board with this idea of no screen rule. And in a way, like empowering her also to be herself, in her own space.
There's no right or wrong way to play and just gave her the freedom to be herself. And I'm sure you must have felt very proud as well that she took your, you know, no screen rule very seriously.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had a lot of protests also at the background, like my grandmother and my father, like, oi, hey, I saw that whole thing. I mean, at the end of the day, at least they got to interact with one another. So that what to me was like more precious and important.
Well done, Kiona. Back to this idea of play being almost like a child's main form of work, right? Why do you think play matters so much to a child?
I have two things that I can think of is that, first, play definitely matters so much for a child and actually their wider systems. So like their caregiver, their mom, dad, helper, grandparents, so on and so forth. I think the wider systems are involved because I think play is definitely not just limited to the child, but also the people around the child. I think just thinking of Mariko's example, right? I think other examples I can think of is like when the child passes you pretend ice cream that they made at the supermarket, the pretend one, or the times they ask, you know, even grandparents to help them with building a fort. So play definitely really helps the surrounding adults to connect with the child. And when we interact with the child and allow ourselves to, you know, see their needs in the midst of play, I think that's how we really get into their world and connect with them. I think that's what I was talking about earlier also. Second, I think it really matters for a child because it helps their peers also to understand each other. So it helps children to get into each other's world and they can now speak the same language. So just the other day, my daughter was playing with this older boy, 1 year older, and they really have nothing in common. And honestly, they don't really warm up very quickly to each other, you know, when they see each other. But once they got to the playground, boom, you know, they were a team. You know, minutes later, they were squabbling. But I think that's reality. They learn that life is not just about them and it's also about others, helping others, talking to others, making eye contact, sharing, and even resolving conflict.
So there's all these very positive social skills that children are learning through play, right? And it's wonderful to hear that, you know, even though maybe you put your daughter together with that boy and it doesn't always happen that the chemistry is immediate, right? But the minute they get to the playground, they can then switch on their play mode and start to play together. And you mentioned the importance of connection as well. I'm wondering, Mariko, given your experience as a preschool educator in the past, are there certain kinds of play that you see as more effective or more helpful for children in terms of their social or emotional growth?
When I considered this question, I actually felt that no, there is no like more effective form of play to me. Every form of play is good for the child. In that sense, when I think of play itself, right, I actually thought of like 3 pointers. The idea of connection that you have because like children, especially when they're young, they don't actually know how to talk yet. So play is a form of like communication for them. That's how they talk about their feelings and they kind of like play through them also. Then this idea of like, you know, when I was sharing about how like Kiona would kind of like boss people around, that was her way of building confidence. And then in doing that reduces her power struggles in daily life when she has to like actually deal with adults outside and stuff. Like she has so much confidence that sometimes I'm in awe of her because she'll just go up to random people and ask like, where's the toilet? I need the toilet. Or like, how can I get to this place? And I'm like over there like, wait, let me look for the signboard. Let me like find alternative methods instead of talking to people because like there is always the innate fear, I guess, in me. But she doesn't have that. And that's such a inspiring thing to look at her. And I think another form of like connection that like children have through play is also serve and return, a form of like attunement, right? Where like, you know, you tell the child like, I see you and I am interested in your world. And that's what I guess Ruth was doing when she was, you know, putting herself in her daughter's shoes of, you know, understanding of why the daughter wanted to put the baby trolley into like a baby carrier, right? Because she saw like the trolley itself as like a baby compared to like something else that was bigger. And that's something that she's trying to make connections with the things around her and the world that she understands at this stage. Yeah, and another point is also about how like play also encourages creativity. There's this whole idea of that play can help you be more creative, but actually what does that mean, right? It's like that. I think in research itself, it talks about how the play also stimulates the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factors, which help to like, you know, with the nerve cell growth and executive functioning skills as well. And it also like, you know, helps with problem solving because at the end of the day, right, like it allows for the children to take risks, right, without the fear of failure, right? And that could be like, you know, whether it comes in the form of like building Legos or like, you know, connected structures that are as high as they can go, right? And then seeing like, okay, like if I build one more, would it like topple over and stuff kind of thing? And that's like, this safe space, right, that at the end of the day that they have, it allows them to have a risk assessment also, where they can understand their physical limits and then also climb trees, you know, the idea of like maybe climbing the playground structure, right? And then knowing like how high they can climb and like how they can manage the fear and evaluate the risks also of taking that one extra step. The third point is the idea of how play like helps them assess the world around them when they have group play, like what Ruth was talking about, you know, that they engage in conversation, right? And the conversation is not always positive in that sense. There's always that idea of conflict, and then from conflict, then they go into resolution and then also like, you know, show like negotiation skills or like empathy with one another. When they're playing, you know, pretend play of house, like role playing, like mommy and daddy and that kind of thing, it's not that they're like just playing mommy and daddy. They're also like, you know, in a way building a society and, you know, their own like family understanding also. And that's all like, you know, reflection of play itself, which is such a powerful like tool when you think of it. How amazing a simple idea that people often just negate as, oh, they're just playing, they're just having fun. But actually like that is them understanding the world around them, and that's also amazing in its a way.
Yeah, there's so many
aspects of
of it that you brought up, right? And I was just trying to recall, and I found like, you know, there are quite a number that start with C, things like connection, they learn that confidence, and then you also mentioned that creative aspect of putting ideas together or just being free to explore what's in their environment and then joining different things in maybe ways that we adults
may not be able to see,
intuitively see as going together, but you know, with a child, anything goes, right?
Yeah.
And
because the limits aren't really like formed yet.
Yeah.
Not like us. Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, you know, as parents, sometimes we are very quick to be the adult in the room. We are very quick to correct, you know, what we think is kind of like, this isn't a very proper way. You know, for example, you know, how your daughter played with that mini baby trolley that you brought back, right? And treating it as like a baby. How do we curb that natural instinct of ours to like, you know, there's a right way of playing this and you're doing it wrong? That kind of response that many parents may have?
I would say be curious. Like, I think as parents, like what Mariko said, we already have our own limits as adults. Like, we kind of know how the world works. But I think that's where we're also coming from as adults. We already have something formed within us. But I think children are definitely still exploring and trying to get to know the world around them. The best thing that we can do for them is actually really be curious, right? Why are you so insistent that you want to touch this thing? Why are you so eager to help me out? And I think, that can come in so many different ways. And for us at home, I mean, we don't really have specific activities that we do, but I actually get her along to do a lot of things that I do at home. So for example, like even cooking, I think a lot of adults, when they see me cook, they will be surprised because my daughter is actually standing in front of the hot pan helping me to mix.
Right.
But I think it's something that she learned over time, like, I can't touch this hot pan, and actually part of play is actually just mixing the things inside. Even just handing a knife, she knows that, okay, there's a sharp knife, I won't put my hand on mama's board, but I can put my hand on my board and cut. And that's also part of that play process, which I think Mariko described. There's so many different forms of play, but they're just curious, curious to make sense of the world around them.
To help yourself curb that, I guess, innate desire to like stop. It's really just reframing your mind, I guess, like to see it as not something that, not imposing your own limitations on your child.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they are new to this world, right?
Yeah.
They are trying to make sense of the world. So something that I would like to encourage my husband usually is to try to pause, take a step back, and then after that, see where it goes first. Then if it really goes beyond safety boundary that you have or boundary that you've set, then step in. But otherwise, then give them space. I feel that will, a bit like the fire thing, right?
Yeah.
Putting the child in front of the fire. So setting that boundary that, like the fire is dangerous. It will cause the pot to be hot. So not touching that pot will be great for you. But then, like aside from that, what is stopping you from letting the child stir? Because if the child is able to understand that there is a hot element, like the pot is hot, then I just have to touch the stirrer, then actually there's nothing else is sort of dangerous in that sense. And if it is dangerous, like you're always there right next to the child to stop the child.
So what I'm hearing is play is helpful and important to a child, especially when he or she is able to take the lead, to run the story, to like be the boss in that sense and to rule their play. And for us, it's more about joining in and seeing where it goes without necessarily having the need to control. Which also kind of brings me to the next question, right? Structured play versus free play. Do you think one is more important than the other, or one should be more prioritized than the other, or both are equally good and important?
I feel like you need a balance of both. But then you also have to like kind of assess it like based on the child's developmental stage. So in a way, like to meet them where they are at different stages, play comes naturally to children in different ways. So when they're younger, right, then when they don't have that communicative like skills, right, the verbal dialogue is missing in the play, then there's a lot of parallel play in that sense where they play alongside one another, but they don't actually, engage with one another. So they acknowledge the presence of another, but they don't know how to interact with one another. Like I think the idea of like maybe placing even another block on the other child's play can just like be them placing and then just doing their own things. It won't like be like, oh, I place with you and then you place with me, that kind of thing, that kind of like serve and return kind of like response. But then as they get older, like, they build their verbal communicative skills, right? Then that like encourages interaction with their play. And then that's how they actually get into more like role playing or cooperative play at that stage. And in even older age, then they'll be doing like imaginative play where like they can literally be huddled in one corner and then just like engaging in storytelling or like pretend play through like their games and stuff. Yeah. So in a way, is there a right and wrong play kind of thing? I don't think so. I feel like it's just at different ages, they just engage in it differently. But I do have to kind of caveat that often I see a lot of parents trying to cram a lot of facts into play itself, into like what we call like structured play, right? Where they like have a lot of like memorizing and like a lot of flashcards, right? And that to me is like, I kind of like pity the children that have to go through that. But then also like, I understand, right? Because that's a lot of how we grew up with the idea of you need to like do that kind of hard, just
Like start learning your ABCs while you're playing.
Yes, exactly. And then it's all like, oh, you need to know this, you don't know this, then like, oh, you're not doing well enough, that kind of thing. But I feel like this kind of thing like actually forces the child to go in at your pace. And that kind of lets them lose their own form of self-regulation. They kind of lose that ability to like manage their own impulses. Because they're always trying to manage your expectations rather than manage their own expectations, right? They lose the idea of being able to, I guess in some sense, when the teachers, whoever that interacts with the child, they keep like forcing the child to do this, do that, do this, do that kind of thing. Then the child like doesn't have idea of what they want to do by themselves. They lose this creative atrophy that they suddenly like realize, oh, there is a right way to do it and that I cannot do it any other way except your way. Then in that sense, then they lose the idea of, oh, maybe this joy of exploring in their environment also. Because, oh, I can't touch the floor because my mom says I cannot touch it. But why can't I touch it? I don't know why. Like my mom just said cannot, so I cannot. Then they don't even bother questioning. They lose this idea of curiosity, right? And this joy of being a child. Because everything is just ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, then academics and everything. So if you say like, is there one like a more important thing? I don't think so. But if you lean too much into one area, then that can be detrimental, I feel, for like the child. Yeah.
And what I'm hearing from you, Mariko, is that it's important to keep our adult impulse, pressure, or expectations away from play as much as possible, to really recognize that this is your child's chance and freedom, in a sense, to just be him or herself and to be free of that expectation to perform.
I mean, I'm not saying that like you cannot do it like incidental kind of like learning. Because I mean, if for example we're at the grocery market, grocery shopping, and then like you come across this idea like, oh, flow of getting the child to maybe do a checklist, right, of items. Oh, can you help me get butter, milk, and eggs or something? And if the child is able to get those 3 items, then that in a way is also like a form of learning and a form of structured play in that sense that you are curating for the child. But then if it like goes beyond that, where like you are forcing the child to just memorize things and like just do homework the whole day without like allowing the child like space and time to go outdoors and stuff, that's the part that I feel
that's the balance that we should strike.
Correct.
I think if I could reframe it a bit for us Singaporeans, maybe we're always fixated on, learning something, gaining something from it. But yeah, I think in our everyday moments, naturally, there will be always moments of structure and moments of freedom. And I think it's on the adults, maybe, to spot like how we can guide our children through these scenarios.
What would you say to a parent who's struggling to find time to play or to even get into the playful mode? The dishes are piling up, there are chores to be done, and then your child has left a huge mess of blocks, right, in the corner that like, okay, that's just one more thing on my to-do list. I think as busy moms, sometimes we all feel it. How do we get into that mode of just being able to relax and being able to join our child in play?
Yeah, I think this is a really good point because it will feel very unnatural for parents who are not very playful people to suddenly turn into playful people and embrace play. So I would say don't fake it. Just like how we are telling all the parents here to meet the child where they're at. Also, for ourselves, meet ourselves where we're at and grow from there. But I think growth can happen, definitely, and we can be intentional about it. So if we see the benefits of play and, we're convinced about why play is so important for our children, I think we can keep going back to the why of play. For me, really, the big why about engaging in play is because of connection. I think it's a very powerful tool. Play is a very powerful tool to connect with our child for all the reasons that we've already listed above, right? I think one big thing is that, you can really show them that you're on their team. I think just now you mentioned, the big pile of blocks on the floor, then how a lot of us might get very triggered by it. Yeah, when we want to play with our child, I think the blocks will turn more into a tool and a resource that we can use to actually be on their side and show them that, oh, hey, we are here to help you understand the world a bit better. In terms of time, I think, yes, true, as busy working parents, it's definitely very tiring to come home after a day of work and expect ourselves to expend a lot of energy. But I think one thing I would encourage parents to do, to just start small, is maybe just put our phone down, even if it's for 5 minutes. Allow ourselves to observe and enter their world. So really just a small step, right? But just putting it aside, put it in another room, even turn it off, even if it's just for 5 minutes, I would encourage parents to do that. Just start there.
So helpful.
Yeah, I think really like what Ruth said, because it is true. Every parent, right, when you go for like a full day of work and you come back and you bring the child back from preschool, or like even when you come back from like your in-laws' place with the child and everything, like you just want to just lie down and just use your phone and disengage with the whole world, right? But you can't do that because like when you have children, then like they are also begging for your attention. And maybe if they've been away from you like for the whole day, then all the more like they are craving for you that 5 minutes of attention, right? And I think that's why it's important to, I guess, like redefine play. Because we always think, like that play is something that we need to elaborately set up some activity or craft, that kind of thing, maybe spend a few hours like setting up, play ice cube toy or something like that for the child, right? But actually play is really just a state of mind. It doesn't have to be an activity. It can just be like, maybe if you say like pile of blocks of lying all over the floor from like the morning rush that you had, that kind of thing. It could be like, oh, okay, let's see who's the fastest to clear the blocks up. Then like that person will get like 1 star or something like that kind of thing, just some simple thing, like, or like sing a song while going to take a bath, or like doing some funny march around the house, like, or have a dance party and then just like relax together with like Spotify music. I think that I did that so many times with my child, because there were times where it was raining outside and I was so bored already at home, and I was, okay, let's change up the vibes of the house, right? And then just like play random music and then just like stomp around, jump around and stuff, kind of thing. These are all like forms of engagement, right, that the child will like treasure and remember. And I think that's how I would see like, being able to play with anybody. Yeah. Honestly, I think that it's fair to like acknowledge that you are tired. And at times I always tell my child also that mommy's very tired. Can you leave me alone for 5 minutes and go and play by yourself? And at first maybe they don't really understand that. But then over time, like if you just show them, like what tired means and how it looks like, I feel like they get it also. And then sometimes, one day they might surprise you and bring you a cup of water because like they want to like make you feel better, right? And then But don't be surprised if like after they give you the water, you drink it, and then like they'll be like, okay, now you're ready, you can go and play with me, that kind of thing. So you have to have some form of social battery as well. I agree.
Yeah.
And in a way, like maybe for me, when I think about this, I don't want to like nitpick, okay, but then when you made the choice of having a child, you should kind of know that like it comes with this cost of redefining your life. And I'm not saying that like it has to revolve around the child itself. You still have to have your own time, individual and as a couple as well. But then like, you know, when it comes to having like that, spending time with a child, just even 5 minutes, like is that too hard to ask? It could even like come in the form of, I saw like a Instagram post where like this father, he pasted tracks all over himself. And like, you know, he just told his children like, okay, I am like the car track now. Like, can you race your cars all over me? And like, he just laid there while the children like just...
He probably
like,
fell asleep right
yeah,
now.
yes, exactly, he did. And I guess like, you know, he also like had a massage in the like me time as well. And that was like the beauty of like play, because it doesn't have to be structured. It can be like, you know, you just lying there and like saying like, oh, I'm the patient, you're the doctor. Check me now, that kind of thing. Yeah. And you don't have to do anything. Like it can be like as simple as that.
I really love what you said. Play is a state of mind, right? It's not some elaborate project that we have to do, you know. And what Ruth reminded us as well, that just put aside our phone for 5 minutes for our family, for our loved ones, and for our children as well. So really glad to have had the chance, right, to hear from the both of you, sharing your own stories and also so many practical tips with us. Before we let you go, Ruth and Mariko, are there any words of encouragement that you'd like to leave with our listeners who actually desire to play more with their children?
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there. I guess this podcast also contributes to the information that's out there. So I want to encourage parents that something that you can really do if there's too much to digest is that bottom line, just get to know your child, really get to know them lah. There's so many different types of play, but it really depends on the child, their personality, their interests and their likes. And I would really encourage parents to be focused on knowing their child rather than getting to know the best practices out there. So something Jonathan Haidt, the psychologist who wrote The Anxious Generation, said was that we have overprotected our children in the real world and underprotected them online. I know this is not about screen time, but I think I just wanted to share this because when I read it, it really stuck with me. Because the main idea behind his book is that we've really transitioned as a society from a play-based childhood to a phone-based one. And I think, the fact that we have all these conversations about play, like we have to teach parents how to play, we have to teach the society how to understand play. I think it really teaches something about society now. Yeah, we are really transitioning to being a lot more on our phones and less curious about each other. So I think I would really encourage more real-world conversations. Children these days struggle to make eye contact or even learn how to greet other people. And I think even the power of play really will help us to hone these simple skills, even those things.
A word of encouragement is that play doesn't have to be a daunting task. It can be, like what I mentioned, right? As simple as telling the child that they're the doctor and then you lying down. And there's so many like free social media resources as well. Because I remember when I was a teacher, Instagram, Pinterest, and this time maybe like TikTok would be like great platforms that parents can like, search on for ideas if they ever need. In a way, there's nothing wrong with like reflecting, right, on your practices as well. Also like observing others as well. Like that's something that I feel when we reflect on our own behavior as like a parent or like, how we interact with one another, that can also be how we see our child as well and be better parents at the end of the day.
Thanks once again, Mariko and Ruth.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. And I'm sure many of our listeners have taken away a lot of tips for themselves and hopefully are on their way to becoming more playful in their parenting journey. For more of our parenting resources, do head over to family.org.sg/subscribe. And if today's episode resonated with you, hit the follow button to stay connected. Leave us a review or share the episode with a friend or someone in your community. And that's all we have for today. Do keep tuning in to the ParentNet podcast to grow in your parenting journey.